Hi, I'm Julian Skan. It's a great pleasure to be here, and I'm very, very delighted to bring to you today 3 of the finalists from the London Fintech Innovation Lab 2016. In 2010, Accenture looked at the technologies that were coming down the track, and we figured 2 things. One was that they will have a big impact, no surprise, but 2 was that these technologies would not result in the immediate death of the existing incumbent banking sector. And so we set up in New York the Fintech Innovation Lab in conjunction with the New York City Investment Fund to assist the industry to adopt these technologies more rapidly. And the purpose of the program is therefore to accelerate the adoption of these technologies by the incumbent sector as well as in the challenger space. We are not saying that we don't support challenge or compete or make the industry better from the outside, but we still remain of the view that a lot of value can be had for customers, for shareholders, and for the countries that these companies operate in by working very closely on the collaborate basis. And that's the purpose of the lab. We run it now in London since 2011, Hong Kong for 2 years, and in Dublin, and we're playing with formats in 4 or 5 other cities. We take no money for the program. We do it because we believe it's the right thing to do and to help Accenture learn and be at the forefront of how this adoption is going to happen. So I'm just going to spend a few minutes giving you some of the experience that we have had the pleasure to watch of how this adoption journey is playing out. And then I'm going to introduce and ask the guys to explain a little bit about the companies and how they found the program this year. I think for this audience, I'm not going to explain to you the journey of fintech. Let me just say a couple of things, though, because we have 1 foot in the startup space, scale-up space, and 1 foot in the banking space. And I have spent 28 years of my career getting banks to change from the inside with wave after wave of disruptive tech. But the movements that we've seen most recently, where the banks are setting up the investment funds, the banks are getting much more aggressive about pushing through the points of view and stopping this death after the proof of concept stage, much more serious about the execution and actually getting this stuff in front of the customers. But there is a long way to go. There is 60 billion euros invested by the banking sector globally in new technology each year. 60 billion. There is a 5 billion invested by the banking industry in venture fund, directly or indirectly, outside their sector. And that's a total in 2015 of 22 billion. So a couple of conclusions. There's still a lot of money in that 22 billion that doesn't believe the right way to get a return is to invest in a bank stock. And secondly, 60 billion versus 5 is not enough of a balance. In that 60 billion, and I should say that is the best analysis we can do, it's probably wrong or right by 20%. But that the return on that investment in 60 billion is incredibly inefficient for all the reasons to do with legacy and the way the banking model has evolved and the difficulty in getting a decent return on tech spend. And I highlight that in terms of this adoption because when we started in London getting these companies close to the banks, we knew it would take a long time to get things in front of customers, to get things live, but we didn't think it would take as long. And looking forward, I still do not feel any way confident that the banks are going to be able to get this stuff into the tech stack quickly enough to get the productivity gains in particular that they need. And that is an issue. And I think that is actually changing some of the competitive and comparative dynamics about who can win and lose. So it's a very serious issue, I think, if you are in the incumbent sector. So I had a little play with this. You may be familiar with the game of Risk, and I'm still working on this, so this analogy doesn't quite work. But let me just to explain the board briefly. The gaffer on the left-hand side, I think we'll all know what we're talking about. The fintech label there refers to the compete sector, the people who are looking to take on the banks, TransferWise, good example. The accelerator I've used as a group term for fintechs that really set out to collaborate because they never imagined getting to the customers themselves, or who have pivoted in that way, as well as some of the startup banks themselves whose exit strategy is to work with the sector or sell to the sector at some point. So obviously some startup digital banks will be in the yellow army, some will be in the purple army, which I think of as a kind of mercenary group that could deploy themselves either to the banks or to big tech or to the gaffers in terms of being part of the army. I should say here that Bitcoin and WeCash are probably the wrong way around on that, if that's confusing you. The banks are the banks are the banks. The regulators are kind of the UN, if you like. And then the big tech on the right, I think, is one of the stories of this year, as well as insurance tech, as we were hearing. I think the other big move this year in this space of fintech is that the question from a bank point of view, I may lose some customer battles, I may win some customer battles, but I will always run the platforms, I think is being questioned. And I think it's being questioned by two things. One, the speed of adoption and the speed of changing the back office of bank so that if that is the strategy, it can actually become a service that's applied across a wider base and therefore get an economy of scale. That ability to pivot that business model looks like being a very long journey. And secondly, more and more of the processing capabilities that have been locked in the banks or locked in an industry in a country because of the ownership structure or the way it's always been done, as those entities are freed up, either by private equity or by the governments forcing sale into the market, that will give tech processing companies the freedom. And they, I think, have a major comparative advantage in becoming a platform provider for a number of reasons. The embedded knowledge of how things work, knowing where the bodies are, where the productivity improvements can be made using fintech. The pure focus of a leadership team on the processing, obviously, but also the access to capital, because with the WorldPay example in the UK, and I guess what we'll see with Equens and so forth, is the valuation on a separate basis looks like being a lot higher than when people see these transaction processing capabilities within the banks. So I think that big tech area, whether it's players like Vocalink and Equens, whether it's actually HP or IBM coming from the infrastructure side and becoming a platform player, and of course on the gaffer side, we're seeing Google staking out its place in the cloud infrastructure area and seeing financial services as a major target. And who knows where they will decide they stop. So from the bank's point of view, for a moment, without taking the sort of war analogy too far, they may have thought they were fighting the Battle of Borodino to save Moscow against one army on one battle, but they might be fighting Austerlitz, where they've got two Napoleonic armies because the customers are being fought for, and big tech are actually turning from suppliers into competitors for the right to run the platforms. Running a customer-facing financial services business has currently got an ROE of about 22%, and that has been therefore the interesting battleground. Running a platform-based business without a balance sheet side of the banking model is about a 7 or 8% ROE business. But the platform has probably got more room to grow of being a higher ROE business because the productivity gains that fintech promises are eye-watering. So I put it to you that the battlefield is getting more interesting. Let me make one more point, and then I'll briefly go into a point about bank strategy, because I think it's relevant for everyone in this ecosystem, and then we'll get over to the companies. We talk a lot about the need to collaborate. It was our main point of view last year, and I don't think anybody would disagree with that. But we mean collaborate as an individual on the battlefield with the people it's best to collaborate with. And make no mistake, therefore, in the round, this is a major battle. And I leave you on that big picture with our point of view is that the starting position of your advantage on your customer relevance, your positioning in the platforms, your access to capital, your access to channels, by which I also mean your ability to work with the industries that have the channel into your customers, so the living services relevance of your financial services offering, working with retail, working with health tech, working with local government, and your starting position in to what extent you control or own the data. We see this year, compared to 2012, 13, 14, a lot more open questions about who could win those continents, whereas at the beginning we thought there wouldn't be much shift. So I think the whole battleground has got a lot more open and more interesting for those reasons. I'm sure there are as many points of view on that as there are people in the room, and I'm sure they're as well informed as mine, so I'd love to talk to anybody afterwards who wants to disagree. I'm not saying I'm right, I'm just opinionated. Let me just switch for a moment in through the bank point of view, which I know is kind of uncool, but I love the banks, and I've spent 28 years trying to help them move forward. So I just want to see it through their lens for a moment. At the moment, most banks have got the top strategy, which is weather the storm. Let's hope interest rates go up. Let's hope we can retain relevance to the customers. And let's hope we can come out of this thing with a broadly vertically integrated model, because it's the status quo and it's easier. Let's hope we can get the productivity moving fast enough so we can cut the costs, so we can save the ROE from staying below 10%, at which point a risk-based banking model is not viable. But I suggest that there are two other most likely scenarios. Number one, I think could still happen. The second one is being the platform provider, which I think speaks for itself. The third one is a world where, rather than exploiting digital economies of scale and running the platform really, really well as a complete stack, you actually think that the pace of change in the innovation is going to be so rapid that you're better off orchestrating a supply chain to deliver that, and you become a value-adding regulated entity with core skills in moving from best-of-breed technology to best-of-breed technology. And in that last model, which is a lot more complex to create, but you're actually more relevant to the end customer than you end up being if you're just providing a very, very efficient single-stack platform play. Again, scenario analysis is usually wrong. The idea is just to make you think about the extremes and what are the most likely, and this is our current house view of the three most likely categories. And what you need to be excellent at, you need to do everything in each strategy, but what you need to be excellent at on the top is customer relevance. And I suggest to you that the banks are still not doing anywhere near enough to really remain relevant to customers if they want to win the first one. If they want to win the second one, they've really got to understand new tech economies of scale and how it works. If they want to do the third one, they've really got to understand how you produce a top quality car by putting all the pieces together and working with that supply chain in real partnership. That's a massive new skill set that is not very prevalent in the financial services sector. And I lay that out because if you're a fintech trying to get into the sector, and the bottom right here is trying to show, it gives you some thinking on what you need to do to be relevant or to help them and the way they see the problem. If you're a bank, I suggest that it's pretty important that you have a house view from the top about which broad direction you're going in, because the choices from now can't be fast follower choices because the value chain is breaking up and your investment and your people and your talent needs to align with which direction you're going to go in. So that's what I wanted to say in plenary. Let me shut up and let's get the real guys on stage. We've got 3 guys here. We have 15 people in the program this year, organized into 3 tracks: investment banking, retail banking, and tech for tech. Really hardcore stuff. We have 2 here from the retail, 1 from the tech for tech space. And first of all, let me introduce Dario from Payke.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Dario. I'm from Payke. It's a great pleasure to be here. Thank you for that kind introduction, Julian. So what does Payke do? On a fundamental level, we provide a bridge between the world of banks and the world of social networks and messenger apps. I think in a previous conversation where TransferWise co-founder mentioned messaging as a financial platform and how removed it is currently from the financial infrastructure, we actually provide a very good solution for that particular problem. And let me explain to you why and how we are going to do this. Our goal is for all of the smartphone users to use their bank accounts, their bank account numbers, to send payments, peer-to-peer payments and commercial payments. We have developed technology that allows this to be done on any platform. It is as easy as sending a photo. The problem is that we are trying to solve is the fact that the banks are losing connection with their users, especially the younger ones. On one side, you have the world of social networks and messenger apps, where people are spending more and more of their time. And on the other side, you have the world of banking apps, which are kind of isolated. And right now, it is difficult to make a payment from a banking app. And we want to solve that. And if you look at the situation around the world, it is easy to notice that all of the big social networks and messenger apps either have or are about to have a payment function. And some, most notably WeChat in China, has entire financial ecosystem embedded into its platform. 10 million merchants, users can borrow money, buy food, tickets, other products, send money. They can do many of the functions that banks provide while chatting with their friends. This is a glimpse of the future, and this is what we are going to see in Europe and in the United States as well. So our solution is to connect these worlds, the worlds of banks with existing financial infrastructure and the world of social networks and messenger apps. And we will do that by we already have created a keyboard app which users can use to send money on any social network or messenger platform. The keyboard app is connected with the bank account and has a payment button which is embedded into it, which can initiate payments. Our solution works on any platform. It is white label, which means it's specifically branded for individual banks, and it is contextual. Users can make payments while chatting with their friends, while spending time on social networks and messenger apps. The product, this is the way our product looks like. As I mentioned, it's a keyboard application, keyboard extension. This particular example is a WhatsApp. We use WhatsApp because it has a closed ecosystem, but we can use the WhatsApp and take advantage of the social graph they have by embedding our keyboard into the operating system of the phone, and this is how it looks like. It's very easy. You have a payment button. It can be branded for any individual bank, and you can send a payment while chatting with your friends or family on your phone. And it's important to mention, peer-to-peer is the first stage in our roadmap. We are definitely looking at commercial payments as well. Demo, I hope it's going to work. Let me see. We can use any authentication system that the banks use, touchscreen, PIN, password. So this is a Facebook Messenger and WhatsApp to eliminate the fact we can do this on any platform. It's totally platform agnostic. So basically, this is what we do. We provide that bridge between the existing financial infrastructure and the world of social networks and messenger apps. And if you look at the competition, we are the only white label, platform agnostic, and contextual solution that exists on the market. Because we take advantage, we help the banks utilize what they already have, and we also connect them with the exciting world of messenger apps and social networks. Adoption strategy, very simple. We work with the banks. It's a white label solution. We already have partnerships with the banks on 3 different continents. We are looking for more potential partners here in Europe and around the world. The advantages are simple. For the banks, individual banks, they can brand this solution in the way they see fit. They'll be first to market in their individual territories. It's bank-friendly. It is secure because we utilize the bank's own security mechanisms. It's contextual. They can take advantage of the fact that they can do business while chatting with friends. It's easy integration. We have developed our solution to make it very, very easy for the bank to attach it on their existing infrastructure, and it's fast. Payments can be done in a very fast time period. We have won a bunch of hackathons. Banks love us for the reasons I mentioned, and we have a team that can execute, and we are based in Israel. Thank you very much for this.
Thank you, Dario. I'm glad you got my body language. That's great. We have 16 banks in the UK program. When we did the assessment of who to take in as finalists, the first time we heard that presentation, the CEO walked out of the room and there was a kind of stunned silence, and the banks literally said, wow, how do we use that? So I hope you have the same reaction. Let me ask Alessis to come up and talk to us about AimBrain.
Thanks, Julian. Hello, everyone. I'm Alessis, co-founder of AimBrain. We're developing the mobile biometric authentication platform. We use your face, your voice, and your behavior to verify if you really are who you say you are. Based on the UBS Evidence Lab research results, mobile banking is 43 times cheaper transactions than a branch, and is expected to have exponential adoption growth for the next 8 years. Yet security concerns remain the biggest adoption inhibitor. Furthermore, as mobile banking grows, so too does the fraud. Based on Value Partners' report, UK saw a 48% increase in mobile banking fraud in the recent years, a trend that is replicated worldwide and is still rising. To address this, AimBrain has developed a patent-pending, mobile-focused biometric authentication platform that works on any mobile browser or data-sensitive application. The platform currently consists of 3 modules: behavioral, facial, and voice. With the behavioral module, we track not what the user enters, but how they enter it. The facial and voice modules are pretty simple. Take a picture, say a few numbers, get authenticated. AimBrain's technology is unique for 3 reasons. First, we provide multiple modules in a single package. Because we provide multiple modules in a single package, AimBrain makes creating step-up authentication workflows extremely easy. Second, we provide a session score. The platform not only provides scores for each of its modules, but also a combined session score that intelligently weighs each of the modules with our proprietary algorithms. And third, we support omni-channel authentication. Because we store the biometric profiles on the servers, we can use them to authenticate the user using their phone, the laptop, or at the branch without the additional enrollments. So let me run through a quick demo of how it works. With the behavioral module, we track the user as they interact with their mobile application. This is completely invisible to them and does not interfere with their user journey in any way. At any point, for example, a sensitive action such as making a payment, we can provide a score that represents how likely this is the correct user. If the score is high enough, based on the risk model of our client, the user can just go through with the action. If not, we can step up the authentication with, for example, facial module, which will provide a higher certainty on whether this is the correct user or not. In the last few months, we've had some amazing traction. We're working closely with 5 banks from across Europe, Middle East, and Africa on deploying our platform. And we are partnering with Reval, Volante, GDI, Fazel, and Kaspersky Labs to further expand our pipelines. As well as the obvious user experience and anti-fraud use cases, key has been PSD2 and how biometric authentication can be implemented as a solution to it. Our team is a perfect mix of commercial and technical expertise. After 3 years of my PhD on machine learning at the University of Edinburgh, I decided to focus on AimBrain. Andrus, my co-founder, worked at the ARM R&D division on the next generation of consumer and enterprise mobile devices. We are joined by Peter Reynolds, who was most recently the managing director of Fintech, the world's largest payment technology provider, and the first employee at Reval prior to that. We're proud to have been selected as one of the top 50 European fintech companies just 3 days ago here. We're AimBrain, and we are developing the mobile biometric authentication platform. And I would love to talk to any of you after the show. Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, Alessis. Fantastic. Alessis he hit Copenhagen quite hard last night, so I don't think the iris recognition would work on his eyeball this morning. But maybe we can test that out. Right, one thing you'll notice is that nobody's English here apart from me, but this is what we do. We don't win anything. We just create the environment for others in England now. So we're going to go from an Israeli to a Latvian and now to a Canadian. Right? I've got that right. So.
Thank you, sir.
Thomas, take us home. VOLEO.
I'm Tom Beattie, CEO of VOLEO, and we're about to revolutionize the way you invest. For too long, it's been a solitary chore, and now you can combine your assets and knowledge with people you know and trust to leverage the power of your network. Directly from your mobile, you'll propose, discuss, and vote on trades, which execute automatically on majority. It's lower cost, lower risk, and because of the wisdom of your crowd, you can outperform. And the best part is that we track each proposal and vote made by each user so you can prove to your friends how things would have gone if everyone had listened to you. The transparency is unprecedented and builds a community you can trust. Follow top performers, take those ideas, and validate them with your peers. VOLEO's creating a generation of informed, empowered investors. I'm going to show you how it works. We've got here the Tracing Dragon Club with 4 members. And we're going to go through this demo as Joseph. Perhaps one more click. Our system is built on working as teams. You can take a look at your portfolio and its holdings, see its performance, and take a look at your sector weightings. You can see that we're mostly in cash, as we're just deploying our assets. I've read some great things about Warren Buffett and how he's well positioned to respond to the economic uncertainty, so I'm going to make a proposal to buy some Berkshire Hathaway. You select your security, make a proposal to your team. Instead of entering a quantity and a price and having to figure out your allocations, VOLEO enables you to drag out your limit and allocation so that visually you can see what it is you're proposing to your group. When you review your proposal, you're able to add a link, a piece of research, or others justify what you're planning to send out to your team. This enables them to start the dialogue, a private conversation that exists within our platform to help you make better decisions. When I send this proposal, all of your team receive a notification that take them directly to what I've suggested and enable us to make that decision. We've integrated social sharing so that you're able to put it out through your broader social networks, both to start the conversation and to get additional feedback. While I wait for my team to vote, and this is how they vote by pressing the buttons at the bottom, I'm going to take a look at that special feature that tracks decisions. This is all of the hypothetical things that I wanted to do that my group did not agree with. And at the point in the future where I would have locked or sold those positions, I lock them for the purposes of my score. It nets them to 0 and allows me to calculate an ROI that is transparent and clear. As I said, that builds a community where you can follow top-performing individuals based on all of their decisions or top-performing clubs based on their actual investments. It's easy to see what they've been doing in a redacted way. You know what they've bought or sold, on what date and at what price, but never how much money they have or the quantity that they're transacting. Let's go back and take a look, because somebody's made a comment on the proposal that we made earlier. You can see we've had one vote in favor. This is somebody who obviously believes in the Oracle of Omaha. It takes one more vote, a simple majority under our default operating conditions, to send a trade to market, and thanks to Betty, it's just gone. That's how easy it is to trade on VOLEO, and you've done it with the support of your peers. Who's going to use it? A lot of people for a lot of different reasons. Young people need help with the barriers to entry: money, knowledge, time, and fear. Self-directed investors are already confident. They want access to ideas, lower cost, lower risk. Professional women, smart and savvy, managing an increasing proportion of wealth. They've told us they will use this. They're risk-aware, not risk-averse. Family units want to pass on knowledge as well as wealth, and teams are already collaborative and competitive. This is a way for them to generate economic good. We're working with global stock exchanges to promote this as a tool for financial literacy and to engage the next generation in equity investment. And we've got early traction with over 50,000 people signed up on our wait list. VOLEO is creating a generation of informed and empowered investors coming to North America this year and partnering with banks and brokers globally. I hope you join us.
Thank you. Thank you, Thomas. I hope you'll agree those three are thought-provoking and interesting. These guys have been in 11 weeks of intensive communication with the 16 banks in the London program. They locate themselves in the Level 39 facility in Canary Wharf that we host for them. The experience is we aim that they can have 3 years of conversations at levels in banks they would never get to in 12 weeks. So it's been quite exhausting. The program ends for London with graduation day next Tuesday afternoon in the St. Martin's Art College, and then we hand the baton to New York, who start their program in a couple of months. Let me just close by asking the guys a couple of questions, because we've only got a couple of minutes. Guys, I talked about the battlefield. What's your view of your competitive positioning, and has it changed as a result of being in the program? I don't know who wants to start. Dario, have you got a view?
Our view is very simple. Our business proposition is predicated upon the fact, basically, we have to work with the banks. So we are fundamentally collaborative in nature, collaborative with existing financial institutions. We believe we do know that we have a product that can help them. On the other side, we don't have to create an entire financial infrastructure from scratch. These days, it's extremely expensive, prohibitive to have a payment rails network, et cetera, create a social network from scratch. So our belief is that we can do well by working with existing solutions, existing financial institutions.
So as PainBrain is a security and authentication layer, a biometrics layer, so by definition, yes, we work with other applications. So we work with banks to help them secure their mobile applications and create better user experience for their customers. So for us, it's definitely working with them.
Okay.
Well, we're one of the rare companies in the program that is able to go direct to consumers. There are definite advantages for banks in terms of activating their existing customers and then using those customers to go and acquire new ones. There is this group element to our platform.
Okay, last question. London, I'm often asked why London is advanced, why London has the advantage. I'm kind of bored of answering the question, because I think London has some advantages in terms of the access to capital and the financial services depth and the talent, and it's not a bad place to buy a sandwich. But when you come to this adoption question, London needs to be very careful, because I think there are other countries who may be able to get solutions in front of their customers quicker. So question to you guys, Europe, what does it mean for you? Do you want to focus on one country? Do you want to go wide? Which countries are attractive?
For us, I think I mentioned in my little presentation, our ambition is global. So definitely all of the European countries, we are trying to partner with the banks in every jurisdiction, every territory. So that is the way we see Europe as a market for us. Obviously, it's not the same. Countries have vast differences in terms of the state of their financial platforms and the culture and mindset of the banks. Some banks move faster than others, and so that's something we have to deal with as well.
Yeah, I also, as I mentioned in the pitch, we are working not only with European banks, but also with Middle East and African ones. For us, the question is the regulatory landscape in the country that the bank is based. That also plays an important role of how fast that bank can move, which in Europe is very different from country to country.
We see lots of potential for our product in North America, Asia, and Europe. The big banks in the UK are not as nimble as some of the international banks, so we'll see how that goes.
Great. Well, thank you very much for being here today, and thank you for taking part in the program, and thanks to you.